More vocabulary. This is what almost all Duolingo English test takers tell me they need to improve their score. But there are two problems with this. The first problem is that there are tens of thousands of English words. How do you know which words are important that you need to study? The other problem is that it is hard to learn new vocabulary. It takes time. So how can we go around these problems here? Well, we can focus on some very high frequency word parts. So what are word parts? They are what they sound like. They're parts of a word. So if you see unbelievable, un is a prefix, which usually means not. Believe is a root word, which usually means, something is a belief, that you believe something, and it's credible. And then also able at the end is a suffix. So to be able to do something, it's unbelievable. So if you know these word parts, you can get an idea of what the word might mean. I'm sure you're familiar with word parts, but there are a lot of them. Some of them are not as helpful as others. So we're only going to focus on 25 here of the most important root words. And you're going to learn them in a way that makes them more memorable. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So if you're ready to improve your vocabulary for the Duolingo English test, let's do it. And let's start with prefixes. We're going to start with just five prefixes. These are words or word parts that show up in the beginning of a word. Now, let's make it a little challenge. Do you know which word part matches which meaning here? You have 20 seconds. You can start now. And here are the correct answers for this exercise. Don't worry if you're not sure of a meaning. I'm going to explain it in a minute. But remember, prefixes are always at the beginning of a word, and they really help you understand what the word might mean. So for example, transportation, trans means across, and so to bring something across, transportation, right? Moving from one place to another. These other prefixes as well also help you not just understand the meaning of a word, but also help you identify a fake word. That is one of the first questions, it's the first question type on the Duolingo English test, is read and select. You have to spot the fake words. And word parts are a great way to make fake words look real. So let's do an example right now. These five prefixes, let's do read and select questions. I'll give you 20. You have to decide if it's a real word or a fake word. Let's try right now. Here we go. So when we make our materials for read and select questions, we use word parts a lot to make fake words. These five prefixes are really helpful to know. Auto means by oneself or self, autograph, autonomy, autopilot, automate, or autobiography. And there are some fake words that we've made as well using that word part. Another example here of the prefix, trans, which means to go across. Pick one word to try to help you remember this word. Maybe the word transport is a good example of a word that helps you remember the meaning of trans. So transport, to carry from one place to another. Transcend, transcribe, to take your speaking and write it down. You transcribe it, you bring it across. So you don't really have to know the exact meaning of the word, but just for you to get an idea of what it means can really help you for not just read and select questions, but also for read and complete and for other reading activities on the Duolingo English test. Abduct. Ab means to go away from something. So if you abduct a child, I hope you don't, you take that child away from their parents and their family. Absolve, abscond, abstain, abnormal. A word to kind of anchor the meaning for this is abnormal for me. You're away from normal, you're abnormal, away from. Another Very useful prefix is sin or sin. I like I didn't even put this word here, but symphony. So that's a orchestra, a band that plays together, a symphony. They are together, right? Synchronize, symmetry, synergy, synonym, sympathy. All these words means bring together, have some idea of bringing together. Sympathy is a good one too because you feel somebody else's feelings. You have sympathy for them. Dis is one that you're probably already familiar with. It means the opposite of. So disagree is the anchor word that I think of here. So you don't agree, you disagree. You're away from agreeing. Dis. So those are the 5 prefixes, and that's it. If you want to know more word parts to help you, you can check out this essential word parts list. There's over 219, I think there's 219 on this list. You can download it for free. I'll put a link in the description below, but we're just focusing on 25. You have 5 down, you got 20 more to go. And I'm sorry if this is a little bit of work, but it's really important to kind of get you to really know what the meanings are. So if I just said, this means this, this means this, this means this, it wouldn't be such an interesting video, and it probably wouldn't, you probably wouldn't remember it very well. So I really want you to try to remember these words. So that's why we have these little exercises. The next one is for root words, 10 root words here. Try to match these root words to their meanings. I'm going to give you some time. I'll put it on the clock. You can start. So some of these root words you may know, some of them you may not know, some of them you have a kind of idea of, or you've seen and you're surprised by the meaning. And I'll talk more about each of the meanings. But the idea here with root words is that these words can be in the beginning, middle, or end of a word. Prefixes are only in the beginning. Suffixes are only at the end. Root words can be in the beginning, middle, or end. So these are really flexible and useful. Now, a great way, again, to get these root words in your mind is to do a little bit more practice. Let's do read and select. I'll give you 20 words. Some are fake, some are real, and they all use these 10 word parts. So let's try it right now. Here we go. Okay, so the first one, fort, means that something is strong. Fortification, reinforce, effortless, fortify, fortitude. I really like the word effort or effortless. So if you have to put a lot of effort into something, it means it's difficult to do. So you need to be strong in order to make effort. So fort, or you can just think of the fort structure as well, like a building that the army uses to protect itself. A fort means strong. Mand is when you order something, okay? So demand something, or something is mandatory. I think the word demand is a good one that most people know. If you demand, you order. I want it right now. You demand it. Reprimand, commander, a person who's in charge. Mandate, a rule you have to follow. M-A-N-D, this root word comes up a lot. How about D-I-C-T? Dict, to say or to speak. An edict, dictate, dictator. I think dictator is a great word for you to remember this, the meaning of this. And that is somebody who's in complete control of a country. And so what they say is law, right? So that's a dictator. Predict, you make a prediction, say what will happen in the future, and contradict. Again, the idea here is that you kind of know the gist of what a word means. It doesn't have to be perfect. So don't worry if you're like, oh, I can't use this in a sentence. That's not the idea. The idea is to get good at the Duolingo English Test at Read and Select, and also for you to know some words in Read and Complete that might be new words for you. Doc, it means to teach. Think of a doctor. Okay, so in some languages, doctor and teacher, it has the same meaning, is the same word. For example, in Japan, doctor and teacher is sensei. So somebody teaches. That's how I think of it with doctor. We can say a document teaches something. Indoctrinate. You try to teach someone to accept a set of beliefs. Undocumented. Documentary film, trying to teach you something. All right, next one, gen. And I think you know this one, generation, to make or produce something. Indigenous people produced in a place. Progeny, carcinogen, pathogen, gene. Everything has to do with producing. The next one, graph or gram, which means to write. You could think of a demographic. You're writing down the population and what everybody is doing in a place. Cartography. I don't know if you know this word, but I like this example, so I put it here. The writing and study of maps. I always like maps, so cartography is there. And I just think of a graph, like when you're making a graph, you're writing something down. That's how I think of this word. Epigram, telegram, graph. And there's a lot of good fake words with this one too, so be careful with graph. Okay, a couple more. Verse or vert, to turn. An adversary, somebody who turns against you, somebody who's against you. Diverse, having many turned or different forms. So having a lot of different ways of seeing things is diverse. I think verse is a good word to connect here. Subversive, anniversary, you're turning another year. That's another good example of a word to help you remember verse or vert. Path is a feeling. Empathy is a great one. Psychopath is another great one as well to remember. This is when empathy is you feel other people's feelings, and it's also used in medicine as well. Psychopath, you don't want to meet somebody like that. Pathogen, homeopathic, neuropathy. So you can see there's a lot of medical terms here with this word path, or this root word path. Two more. Form is shape. So a nonconformist is somebody who doesn't try to take anybody's shape, doesn't want to agree with anybody. A nonconformist, I like that word. Deform, formatted, formality, informative, information. Okay, somebody is trying to give you data that helps shape what you think in information. Okay, shape knowledge. And the last one, temp, is time. I think you guys probably know this one. I think of temporary. Something is temporary. It's, just temporary. That's it. Contemporary, tempo, tempestuous. That's a good, strong, difficult word. Don't worry if you don't know that. And temporal. So those are the 10 root words. Before I get into it, I want to make sure that I shout out tsdprep.com. We have a emergency practice pack for the Duolingo English Test that's designed for people who have less than a month to prepare for the test. Everything you need that's included there. It includes courses, a complete course for Duolingo, and it includes practice questions and all that good stuff. So everything you need in one place, especially for people who have less than a month. If you have more than a month and you need to build your score, we have the Score Builder Practice Pack at tsdprep.com. I'll put a link to both of those as well. All right, but let's keep going to the next one and the last one, which is suffixes. So these are really important for two reasons. One reason is that they're always at the end of a word. So you know if it's a suffix, it's at the end of a word. Not all words have suffixes. Like for example, time, there's no suffix there. But if I put timely, then that changes from a noun to an adverb, and that suffix is ly. So that's the second reason why suffixes are really helpful, is because they let you know the part of a word. So for example, transportation, when a word ends with tion, that's a noun usually. So that's why it's important to know suffixes. They help you understand not just the meaning of a word, but also if it's a verb or a noun or an adjective or an adverb, the part of speech. So let's look at 10 examples and 10 meanings of these. So the meanings are a little bit harder to figure out for suffixes. I wouldn't worry so much about the meaning, but more if it's a noun or verb or adjective, but we can do this anyway. So let's do this practice together. Don't worry if you find this difficult. I find it a little difficult too, but good luck, and we will talk about it in a minute. So you probably know these suffixes, you've seen them 1,000 times already, but you might not have thought about, is it a verb or a noun or an adjective, and what does it actually mean when a word ends with this suffix? So this is another great way to make a fake word. You can just take a word and put a suffix on the back. For example, if I say time, but if I say time eyes, I-Z-E, time eyes, I don't even know how I pronounce that. That's not a real word, but it kind of looks real because it is using a popular suffix, I-Z-E. So let's do some read and select practice, and then I will explain each of these right after. So let's do some practice right now. 20 words, some are real, some are fake. Let's see how you do. All right, I have something to show you at the end of this. I want to make sure that you get the list here, but before I do that, let's go through these suffixes. So, ify is to cause or to make something. Glorify, gentrify, identify, falsify, rectify, to make or cause something, okay? If you have this ify at the end, you're usually making a verb, okay? So ify, a lot of the times it makes a verb. Now, how about IZE? Lionize, organize, jeopardize, or dramatize. Okay, so these are again to become, to make something into, to make somebody or someone into something. And again, we have a verb here. Okay, so he was lionized, or I organized my room. Making a verb with IZE. The next one, this is making adverbs. Ends with ly. I think you know this one. Quickly, heavily, flawlessly. I have to slow down to say that one. Gradually, suddenly. I think of quickly most of the time when I think of this ly suffix at the end. The next one, ship. So this is a noun. Friendship is the one that I always think of. It's the state or quality. It's what is happening right now. Kingship, championship, friendship, dictatorship, membership, all ships, what's happening right now. The next one is ist. And so usually this is pretty negative when you say somebody is an ist. I always think of words like racist and sexist. There's a bunch of other ones as well. It's a noun for a person and who believes in something. Egoist, psychiatrist, moralist, propagandist, atheist. All these are people that believe in something. I think these fake words are kind of funny. Funnest? Sounds fun. Ism. And again, this word I feel like has a negative impression because it has a kind of strong belief in something. Again, sexism, racism, but there's plenty of other isms. Nepotism, pantheism, don't believe in pantheism, but that's an interesting word to know. Liberalism, feudalism, skepticism. So this is really good for like politics and for general like studies of governments and things like that. Isms, organizations. So an ology. I think you guys know this one from studying at school. You'll hear a lot about it. I think of geology is the one that I think of immediately, is the study of the earth. And so anthology, psychology, ontology, dermatology. Lots of ologies, mostly in school and in college when you're studying a subject. The next one is IC at the end. So characterized by, related to, apologetic, academic, agnostic, artistic, athletic. I think of artistic, somebody who is connected to art. It's not a noun, it's an adjective most of the time. There are some times where it's a noun or a different part of speech, but most of the time this is an adjective, IC. Okay, the next one, ish. So I always think of childish, somebody acts like a child, childish. And so amateurish, like an amateur. Gibberish, so you have a lot of meaningless speech. Selfish, you think about yourself a lot, and cheapish, you're pretty, you don't spend a lot of money, so somebody's cheap. So that's ish. Good anchor word is childish. And the last one is going to be full of, helpful, mouthful, hopeful, skillful, deceitful, scornful. I think of helpful. Somebody's full of help, they're helpful, and he's a helpful person. Okay, so that is the 25 word parts. Thank you for sticking around to the end. Check out the essential word parts list. Make sure you download this if you think this is helpful and you would like more help with understanding the most important word parts to help you figure out the meaning of a word. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, let me know in the description, or let me know in the comments below. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next one.